Armenian food it's kind of Mediterranean-ish. Lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. So here we always have like the boxed stuff or lots of fast food or things like frozen dinners and all of that stuff. In Armenia, you can find that, but most people don't have it. It's fresh fruits and vegetables. You go to the market every day and you get your fruits and vegetables. You get fresh bread. Their bread is amazing. Just the best stuff in the world. And then they also have a flatbread. It's called lavash. They eat with everything as well. Whenever they eat, they always have a piece of bread in their left hand, and then they have their fork or spoon in their right hand, and they just take a bite of their meal and a bite of bread. And I remember actually one time we were at an investigator's house, and the daughter, she was like 4 years old, and the mom kept getting after her. You're not eating with your bread. Get bread in your hand. You need to eat with bread. So bread's a really big staple. And then pastas. You eat a lot of pastas and potatoes. And then favorite, more traditional Armenian, they have, and this is kind of Greek as well, it's called Dolma, and it's like meat and rice with seasonings wrapped up in either grape leaves or cabbage leaves, and then it's steamed. And they serve it with a type of yogurt. It's called Monsoon, and so it's like yogurt, and then they put garlic in it and serve it like with the sauce on top. It's really good. And Borscht. Borscht is actually a Ukrainian dish, but it's just like a vegetable soup with cabbage and beets and carrots and potatoes. And sometimes meat, like beef and chicken. That's also really good. And then their traditional like Armenian meal, it's called khash. And what they do is they boil like the foot of a calf or of a cow, and it makes it really gelatiny and really starchy, and they cook it with garlic. And then when they eat it, they rip up lavash and put it inside of it, and so it soaks it up. It's a really heavy dish, and I actually never had it. Armenians love it. Most missionaries don't. Armenian fruit, especially the apricots. Apricots, best ever. The ketchup it's like more fresh, and then they add seasonings to it, so you can buy different flavors of ketchup. And it's just not as preserved, I guess, as ours is. It tastes better, and you can eat it with, like, we put on our pizza, and we'd eat it with some of our pastas, or just like lots of different things. Good stuff. I miss the ketchup. That's a weird thing to miss, but I miss it. Their food.
Armenian food's so good. So good. My companion, when I first got there, she didn't know how to cook American food. So I got there, she just makes up this Armenian food, and she dumps in it was a lot of oil. Like, we spray oil, they dump it, and she dumps the oil in. I have an audible gasp as I'm watching her. I'm like, that's a lot of oil. And she looks at me, I'm so sorry, is that a lot of oil? I don't really know anymore. And she just dumps in the eggs and the leche, which is kind of like this non-spicy salsa. Really good. My favorite thing to eat with eggs. And she's like, this is what we're having for breakfast. And I was like, what is this? She's like, here's the bread. You always eat your meals with bread. And she's just digging in, putting the stuff on her bread, and just eating it and wiping her plate clean. And I'm just completely confused with how these people eat. They love salt, and they love pickling things. Anything. Like, let's see here. We've got cucumbers, cauliflower, broccoli, tomatoes, carrots, bell peppers. Sometimes watermelon is sold. So and I didn't like it. So I always hopefully I had a companion who would eat it for me. And then I would eat, they didn't like the Armenian cheese. Armenian cheese is super salty, but it's so good. They had something called Dolma, which is way good. And they usually put it in a grape leaf or in a cabbage leaf, and they have to steam it, and they cook the meat, and it's put in with rice, and they have a special meal for Easter. It's rice pilaf. Pilaf. Wow, that's probably how you say it in American. Oh well, in English. And it's this rice with butter and raisins in it, so it becomes this sweet rice that you eat for Easter. That's what's called for Easters. And it's so good. So good. What else do they eat over there? They have borscht, which is a Russian soup. So if you talk with a lot of Russian missionaries or missionaries from Ukraine, like, it's a great thing. You'll be so connected. Fresh fruits and vegetables, all spring and summer. One of the best things you could ever eat. Ziran, which is an apricot. It just, like, you have to eat it away from your body, like leaning over, because it just drips down your face. They're so good. So good. And then they dry them, and so then you can eat them all winter long. And the food's so cheap there, so you can eat tons of it. And my favorite thing was probably fried potatoes. They just put a whole bunch of oil in a pan, and they'd they would brown them and just put salt all over them. And they would say, like, they would make them red, or they'd brown them, is basically what they say. And it was my favorite food. Like, when people asked me what I wanted to eat before I left, and I said, I want to eat the potatoes, and they looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, they're the best things ever. You make them so good. So that's a little bit about the food in Armenia. It's good. Your stomach will be happy. You just got to take a leap of faith. There are some weird stuff, though. Okay, weird stuff that I've eaten. There's something called chash. Chash. And what they do is they take a cow leg and they boil it in water until they, like, all the hair and all the dirt and everything, they clean it. They, like, skim off the top or something, and then they boil it for like 3 days. And it's the soup. That's all it is, water and this cow leg. And they put it in this bowl, and then they take lavash, which is like huge tortillas that they dry up. And they crumple up, and you put it in your soup. And so the lavash just soaks it up. And then you take non-dried lavash, so lavash that's soft, and you grab it with your hand, and then you eat it. That's how you eat it. And it's supposed to be, like, for kings and queens, this meal, chash, and it's super heavy. Like, I didn't really understand what the word heavy meant in food till I ate that, and I only ate, like, that much off the top of my bowl, and I was so full. It's not disgusting. It tastes like a cow, but it's pretty good. And the last thing that I probably ate that was really gross was pickled pig foot. I didn't know I was going to eat it. We had investigators, and they said, you should eat this. Like, this is a delicacy. And I was like, you realize what that is? And she's like, yeah. And I said, I don't want to offend you, but if I don't like it, I'm not going to finish eating it. They said, it's okay, we'll eat it. So I take a bite out of it, and just, like, pure cartilage and pickleness just all in my mouth, and the texture was atrocious. So gross. And so we just put it down. We're like, thank you, like, you guys can eat it. And they ate it within like a minute. They just gobbled it down. So those are like some of the weird things you'll eat, but generally you'll have some really delicious food. Armenian food is the best. And their sweets, they're the queen. Like, they don't make cakes, but they make pastries that are so yummy. They have one called gata, and it's like sugar and dough, and they layer it, and they put butter on it. So they make the dough, and then they spread it out, and they put butter on it, and then they fold it over and roll it out again. And then the mixture, the butter has sugar in it, and then so they roll it out, put the butter and sugar, so it's just like butter and sugar layered, so it makes it crispy and flaky, but like powered with sugar. It's so good. And bone cheeks, wow, I forgot about all these food. I'm so hungry now. Bone cheeks, they're like scones that are puffed up with pudding inside. They're so good. And borschtskis, those are like a Russian food that they have there, and that you can have like chicken in the middle. It's just a dough, and then they put chicken and spices in the middle, and you just eat it. My favorite one was the potato, which is kartoffelov, which is made with potatoes, and they're just so good. And they would like have hot dogs in it or just whatever. And khachapuri, oh my gosh, that's good food. I'm just gonna keep telling you all this good food. So khachapuri is from Georgia, actually. So khach means bread, and then puri means cheese. So it's the cheese bread. And they make it several different ways. They have khachapuri where the cheese is in the middle, or they have khachapuri where it's like about this big, and then they just put the cheese in the middle and it's melted. You just eat it. It's really good. Yeah, so that's enough about food, I think. Wow, I forgot how much I love the food there. Wow. Their ice cream is so good, baklava, and like it's so creamy and just so good. And then you mix it with their juice, and their juice is so good. Like it's thick. It doesn't have pulp, it's just like nectar. And so you put that with your like ice cream and you mix it, and you just make this deliciousness. I don't even know how to describe it. Summers are the best because ice cream's so cheap, but you just like walk around outside, and then when you're hungry you just buy an ice cream bar and eat it and keep walking, and you go buy more ice cream. It's so good. But sorry, back to the restaurants, but I've been to one, and a lot of the restaurants are like Middle Eastern restaurants, so like Greek food or like different stuff, but it pretty much has the same. I went to Glendale recently, which is like one of the capitals for Armenia. They have like probably about 1 million Armenians there who live there in California. And so they have restaurants there. But the best way is to make it yourself. Just like learn. I haven't been to a really good restaurant yet with good Armenian food and stuff. Unless you're there, then eat all you want because it's super good. You can buy popok, which is a walnut, and what they do is they soak it in water. So they take the walnuts and they're green, and then they peel them, and they have to make sure they're soft enough, so they stick a stick in them to make sure like their shell hasn't formed yet. And so then they stick them in water, and in the water they like get bigger, and then the water turns brown, and they keep changing out the water. The faster you change out the water when it turns brown, the quicker that you can make this. So it takes about like a couple weeks. And so after you put the walnuts in there and the water's clear, then they put it in sugar water with cloves and spices, and they boil it. And it's so good. And at the end you have this juice that's so good in these little black round balls that are just the walnuts that have been soaked in water and everything. And they were my favorite thing to eat. My favorite. So addicting. Like I didn't buy them that much over there because I would eat a ton of them. So that's really good. And the last thing is, I can't remember what it's called, but it's they put walnuts or different nuts and they string them through. And so it's a long string of walnuts, and then they dip it in this jelly, and they keep dipping it till all the walnuts covered. And so it's this walnut covered in jelly. It's like, we call it the healthy Snickers. That's what all the Americans say, because it's really good. That's like one of my other favorite things to eat. The milk there is kind of, you have to buy Russian milk or it tastes like cow. But the food is so good over there, and you'll find little chocolates. Just try little things. Every time I go to the store, I would just feel like, oh, I haven't had this yet, I'll try this. And it was either like a miss or a hit. And that's one way to be accepting of the people there too. When they give you food, try what they give you. Don't be one of those people that are like, oh, I'm not quite sure. Just do it. Just do it. Yeah. Oh, and there's this nasty drink called Ton. Oh, I just remember a flood of memories. I've talked about this. So it's this stuff called Monsoon, which is like kind of like rotten milk. It's kind of like yogurt, like Greek yogurt, but more. I don't know how to explain it. And they put water with it, and then they put salt in it. And it's just, some people really like it, and it's good for your digestive system. But it is one of the nastiest things I've ever eaten in my life. It's just salty. They'll just chug it. All Armenians will just drink and drink and drink it. And they'll ask you if you want homemade ton, and that's kind of gets sketch after a while. But it's an adventure. Just keep trying stuff, because that's when it gets fun. That's when you are accepting of people's culture, which is really important on a mission.